You ever been in one of those moments where someone says something to you, and it's not even what they said, it's how they said it? That tone, that little smirk at the corner of their mouth, and you feel it immediately. That heat rising up from your chest into your throat. Your heart starts pounding. So hard you can hear it in your ears. And you absolutely know that what just happened was disrespectful, was a test, was them checking to see if you'll just take it. And here's what kills you. Here's what really twists the knife. You do take it. You smile. You laugh it off. You make some self-deprecating joke to diffuse the tension that only you seem to feel. And later, hours later, maybe when you're lying in bed at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling, that conversation plays on repeat in your mind like a broken record. You think of all the things you could have said, should have said, the perfect comeback, the cutting response that would have put them in their place, but you didn't say any of it. You just stood there and absorbed it like a sponge absorbs water, and now you're drowning in the weight of your own silence. If you've ever felt that crushing sensation of knowing you let someone walk all over you, if you've ever felt the shame of being too kind, too understanding, too empathetic in a world that sees those qualities as weaknesses to exploit, then everything I'm about to tell you is going to change the way you see yourself and the way others see you, forever. Here's something most people don't understand about empathy. They think it's this soft, gentle thing, this beautiful quality that makes you a good person, and sure, that's part of it, but that's the Disney version. The real version, the version that anyone who's actually deeply empathetic knows, is that empathy is one of the most dangerous psychological weapons that exists. Think about it. To be truly empathetic means you can read people at a level most can't even comprehend. You walk into a room and you don't just see faces, you see micro-expressions. You feel the tension in the air. You know who's uncomfortable, who's faking confidence, who's about to explode. You're basically operating with sensory equipment that other people don't have. You're seeing the game board while everyone else is just playing checkers. But here's where it gets twisted. Here's where the whole thing falls apart for most empathetic people. You were taught that this gift, this ability to feel and read and understand, should be used to make others comfortable. You were told that being kind means absorbing other people's negativity, that being understanding means letting people treat you however they want, that being empathetic means putting everyone else's emotional needs above your own until you're completely hollowed out inside. And that's the trap. That's the cage they put you in. They took your greatest strength and convinced you it was a weakness, convinced you that using it for your own benefit, for your own protection, for your own power, would make you a bad person. Robert Greene talks about this in The Laws of Power. The concept that appearing weak and harmless is sometimes the most strategic move you can make, but only if you're doing it consciously, only if behind that soft exterior you're calculating every move. The problem with most empathetic people is they're not being strategically soft. They're genuinely defenseless. They gave away their sword thinking that would make them noble, and now they're standing in the middle of a battlefield with nothing but good intentions and a target on their back. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he wrote The Prince. He said it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But what he really meant was that power requires respect first, affection second. And you cannot command respect if people see you as someone who will tolerate anything, forgive anything, absorb anything. That's not respect. That's contempt disguised as comfort. They keep you around because you're safe, because you won't push back, because you're the emotional dumping ground, the person they can unload on without consequence. And you thought you were being compassionate. You thought you were being the bigger person. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually looks like in real life. You're at work, and there's a meeting, and you present an idea you've been working on for weeks, something you actually believe in, something that could make a real difference. And before you even finish explaining it, someone cuts you off. They don't even try to be subtle about it. They just start talking over you like you weren't speaking at all, like your words are just background noise. And everyone in the room, they just let it happen. Nobody stops them. Nobody says, hey, let them finish. Nobody even looks uncomfortable except you. And what do? You stop talking. You shrink back into your chair. You tell yourself it's fine. It wasn't that important anyway. Maybe they had a better point to make. But here's what actually happened. What actually happened is they tested you. They tested to see if you would defend your space, your voice, your right to be heard. And you failed the test. Not because you're weak, but because you've been conditioned to believe that asserting yourself makes you aggressive, makes you difficult, makes you the problem. So you stay quiet, you stay small. And they learn that you're safe to interrupt, safe to dismiss, safe to treat as less than. And it happens again and again, until one day you realize you've become invisible in rooms full of people, and the worst part is, you did it to yourself by choosing peace over presence every single time. Now, before we go any further, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself right now. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head where someone disrespected you, belittled you, or made you feel small and you just took it? How many nights have you lost sleep running through all the things you wish you had said, all the ways you could have stood up for yourself but didn't? If that's you, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, I want you to leave a comment down below right now and just write, I've been there. That's it, just 3 words, I've been there. Because here's what happens when you do that. You start to see that you're not alone in this. There are thousands of people watching this video right now who have felt exactly what you're feeling. That shame, that frustration, that anger at yourself for not being strong enough in the moment. And when you see other people commenting the same thing, something shifts inside you. You realize this isn't a personal failing. This isn't some unique weakness you have. This is a pattern that was taught to you. This is conditioning. And if it was taught, it can be untaught. So go ahead, drop that comment, I've been there, and let's build a community of people who are done being doormats, done being the ones who always give in, done being mistaken for weak when we're actually reading the room better than anyone else. Write it down, I've been there, and let that be the first step in reclaiming your power. So what's the solution? How do you stop being the person everyone walks over without becoming some cold, heartless version of yourself? This is where most people get it wrong. They think the only 2 options are doormat or dictator, pushover or psychopath. But that's a false choice designed to keep you trapped. The real answer is something most people never even consider: strategic empathy. This is where you take that deep understanding you have of human nature, that ability to read people and situations, and you start using it not just to make others comfortable, but to position yourself powerfully. Think of it like this. A chess master doesn't just see the board, they see 10 moves ahead. They know what their opponent is going to do before their opponent knows. And they use that knowledge not to be nice, not to let the other person win, but to control the entire game. That's what you do with empathy when you understand how to wield it correctly. You see the manipulation coming before it lands. You feel the power play before it's executed. And instead of absorbing it, instead of letting it hit you and knock you down, you sidestep it so smoothly that the other person doesn't even realize you just made them look foolish. Here's a practical example. Someone at a family dinner makes one of those comments. You know the type, it's wrapped up like concern. But it's really just criticism. They say something like, oh, you're still working at that job. I thought you'd have moved up by now. Or you're looking a little tired lately. Are you taking care of yourself? With that fake worried tone that's really just them pointing out that you look like hell. Now, the old you, the empathetic doormat version, you would laugh it off, maybe even agree with them, say something like, yeah, I've been so busy, I really need to take better care of myself. Thanks for noticing. And you just gave them exactly what they wanted. You validated their right to comment on your life. You accepted the frame that something is wrong with you. But the new you, the strategically empathetic you do something different. You smile. You hold eye contact just a second longer than is comfortable. And you say absolutely nothing. You let the silence sit there like a dead body, and the middle of the table. And here's what happens: they panic. Because silence is one of the most powerful tools in human interaction, and almost nobody knows how to use it. They were expecting you to defend yourself, to explain, to fill the awkward space with justification. But you didn't. You just looked at them calmly, almost amused, and let their words hang in the air until everyone at the table can feel how inappropriate the comment was. You didn't have to say a single word. You didn't have to attack back. You just refused to play the game. And in doing so, you won. This ties directly into what Carl Jung called shadow work, the process of integrating the parts of yourself you've been taught to reject. For empathetic people, the shadow is almost always power, assertion, the ability to say no, the capacity to be selfish when necessary, the willingness to let someone else be uncomfortable instead of absorbing their discomfort yourself. You've spent your whole life trying to be the good one, the understanding one, the one who never causes problems. And that part of you that wants to tell people to go to hell, that wants to walk away from toxic relationships without guilt, that wants to take up space and demand respect, you buried that part so deep you forgot it existed. But it's still there. And until you bring it into the light, until you acknowledge that you have the capacity for ruthlessness, for cold calculation, for putting yourself first, you'll always be at the mercy of people who have no problem doing those things. The goal isn't to become cruel. The goal is to become complete, to be empathetic when it serves you, and ice cold when someone tries to take advantage of that empathy. Let me tell you about a concept from The Art of War by Sun Tzu that applies perfectly here. He said, "Appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak." Most empathetic people have the first part down to a science. You appear harmless, non-threatening, easy to manipulate, but you forgot the second part. You forgot that this is supposed to be a strategy, not your entire personality. The idea is that while everyone thinks you're soft, you're actually gathering information, reading the room, understanding everyone's weaknesses and motivations, and when the moment is right, when it actually matters, you strike with a precision that nobody saw, coming because they underestimated you. That's the empathetic comeback. That's the power shift. It's not about becoming loud or aggressive or mean. It's about becoming unreadable. It's about people not knowing whether you're the sweet, understanding person or the one who will destroy them socially with a single well-placed observation. And that uncertainty, that inability to categorize you, that's what creates respect. Here's another real-world scenario to make this concrete. You're in a relationship, romantic or friendship doesn't matter, and the other person has a pattern of canceling plans, last minute, showing up late, generally treating your time like it doesn't matter. And every time they do it, they have an excuse. They're so sorry, something came up, they'll make it up to you, it won't happen again. And because you're empathetic, because you can imagine all the legitimate reasons, someone might be late or have to cancel, you forgive them. Every single time. You tell yourself you're being understanding, you're being mature, you're not being one of those rigid, unforgiving people. But what's really happening is you're teaching them that your boundaries are negotiable, that your time has no value, that you will always be there waiting whenever they decide to show up. Now here's what the strategically empathetic version of you does. The next time they cancel, you don't get mad. You don't argue. You don't even express disappointment. You just say, "Okay, thanks for letting me know." And then you make other plans. You go out, you enjoy yourself, you post about it if you want to. And when they reach out again to reschedule, you're suddenly busy. Not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely filled your time with people and activities that actually show up for you. And here's the magic. They notice that their access to you isn't unlimited anymore. They notice that you didn't chase them, didn't beg them to make time for you, didn't sit around waiting. And suddenly, unconsciously, they start valuing your time more because you demonstrated, through action, not words, that it has value. This is the essence of what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." You're not forcing anyone to respect you by yelling about boundaries or giving them lectures about how they should treat you. You're creating a situation where respecting you becomes the only logical option, because not respecting you means losing access to you. And people, even the selfish ones, especially the selfish ones, they understand loss. They understand scarcity. When you're always available, always forgiving, always understanding, you're abundant. You're cheap. But the moment you become scarce, the moment your time and attention becomes something they have to earn, everything changes. And you didn't have to become mean to do it. You just had to stop being a doormat disguised as a saint. Now let's talk about the internal work, because this isn't just about tactics and strategies you use on other people. This is about fundamentally changing how you see yourself. Most empathetic people have a deep-seated belief that they need to earn love and respect through service, through being useful, through absorbing other people's pain. That belief usually comes from childhood, from being the kid who learned that the way to get attention or avoid conflict was to be the peacemaker, the helper, the one who never caused problems. And that worked when you were 7. But you're not 7 anymore. And the coping mechanism that protected you as a child is now the prison that's suffocating you as an adult. So here's the brutal truth you need to internalize. Your value is not determined by how much you give. Your worth is not measured by how much disrespect you can tolerate. You don't become more noble by shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. In fact, the opposite is true. Every time you abandon yourself to keep the peace, every time you betray your own needs to accommodate someone else's selfishness, you lose a piece of your soul. And eventually there's nothing left. You become a shell, a people pleaser with no personality of your own, someone who doesn't even know what they want anymore, because they've spent so long only caring about what everyone else wants. The internal shift you need to make is this. Start treating your energy, your time, your emotional bandwidth as the most valuable resource you have, because it is. Stop giving it away for free to people who haven't earned it. Stop letting people rent space in your mind who wouldn't let you rent space in theirs. Start asking yourself before every interaction, is this person adding to my life or draining from it? And if the answer is draining, you need to make a choice. Either you set a boundary and enforce it, or you remove yourself from the situation entirely. And yes, that might mean losing relationships. It might mean family members getting upset. It might mean friends calling you cold or saying you've changed. Good. Let them. Because the people who benefited from you having no boundaries are always going to be upset when you start building them. Their comfort was dependent on your discomfort. And now that you're no longer willing to be uncomfortable for their sake, they're going to try to guilt you back into the old dynamic. Don't fall for it. This is the test. This is where you find out if you're serious about changing, or if you're just going to fall back into the same patterns. Here's your challenge for the next 7 days, and I want you to actually do this, not just think about doing it. For the next 7 days, practice strategic silence. Every time someone says something to you that would normally make you defensive, that would normally make you explain yourself or justify your choices, I want you to pause, take a breath, and say nothing. Just look at them. Let the silence do the work. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Your whole body is going to scream at you to fill that silence, to smooth things over, to make it less awkward. Resist that urge. Sit in the discomfort. Let them sit in it too. And watch what happens. Watch how people suddenly backtrack, how they start explaining themselves, how they get nervous and try to clarify what they meant. You're going to see in real time how much power you've been giving away by always being the first one to break the tension. And by the end of those 7 days, you're going to understand something profound. Your silence is more powerful than their words. Your calm is more threatening than their aggression. Your refusal to engage is the ultimate power move. And once you feel that, once you experience what it's like to hold your ground without saying a single word, you'll never go back to being the person who over-explains and over-apologizes and over-gives. If you made it this far, If you're still here, it means something in this video resonated with you on a level that goes beyond just information. You felt something. Maybe it was recognition, maybe it was relief, maybe it was anger at all the years you wasted being small. Whatever it was, I want you to know that this isn't the end, this is the beginning. You just took the first step in a complete transformation of how you show up in the world. And here's the thing, you don't have to do this alone. This channel is dedicated to exactly this, teaching empathetic people how to stop being victims of their own kindness and start becoming the strategic, powerful, respected individuals they were always meant to be. Every single week, I put out content that dives deep into power dynamics, dark psychology, emotional mastery, all the tools you need to navigate a world that will absolutely destroy you if you don't know how to protect yourself. This isn't about becoming a bad person. It's about becoming a complete person, someone who can be kind when it's deserved and ruthless when it's necessary. So if that's what you want, if you're tired of being the one everyone takes advantage of, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single video. And if this content helped you, if it gave you even one insight that's going to change how you handle things moving forward, leave a like so more people who need this message can find it. Because I promise you, there are millions of people out there right now who are stuck in the same cycle you were stuck in, and they need to hear this just as much as you did. I'll see you in the next one, and remember, you don't owe anyone an explanation for finally choosing yourself.